Having it. North Dakota has enacted a new law which prohibits same-sex marriages, which prompted their gay guy to move to Minnesota. I am the Lord of the Sardonic Dance. Let's see what's new in the world this week. Oh, English patient, the Oscar will see you now. Larry Flint showed up at the Oscars with Woody Harrelson, marking the first time he's been seen with a Woody in quite some time. You know, Hustler would have been the first to print that joke. This week, at 72 years of age, former President George Bush made a successful parachute jump over Arizona. Dan Quayle was also on the plane to make the leap, but was stopped when a team member discovered he was wearing a camping backpack. That's when you know you've been really stupid in public, when you have that residual stupid acceptance years later. You left quite a half mark, Danny. Nike has taken a charge that in its Korea manufacturing plant there has been physical mistreatment of female employees 15 to 28 years old. In their own defense, however, Nike pointed out that there were no reports of mistreatment of their 6 to 14-year-old employees. Researchers this week said that the prostate medication Propecia, am I saying that right? Isn't that bread you dip in olive oil? Anyway, they say Propecia can restore hair to bald heads, but then they caution that it can also cause sexual dysfunction. So I guess if you're bald, you have two choices, and both include not getting laid. Archaeologists have discovered the skull of a 4,600-year-old man who died of cancer. Coincidentally, the man's HMO has almost finished processing his claim form. And the Arizona Department of Health Services held a public hearing this week on proposed rules for child care centers that would restrict the use of crock pots and ban pet reptiles, relieving the operators of the Happy Times Open Pit Badger Farm and Child Care Center. I have no idea how that joke made it past my guards. So I snuck into the compound like Al Mundy. This week, Reverend Jerry Falwell urged General Motors, Chrysler, and Johnson & Johnson to withdraw their sponsorship of the April 20th or April 30th episode of Ellen, in which Ellen declares her homosexuality. And in a similar vein, Falwell also threatened to boycott Johnson & Johnson unless they change their name to Johnson & Vagina. Thank you. I thank you, and you get a little tip of the hat from my friend Johnson, too. At an auction of Beatles memorabilia in Tokyo last week, Paul McCartney's birth certificate went for almost $85,000, and the house where Ringo Starr was born went for $21,000. The house sale is not yet final, however, since auction officials are having trouble getting Ringo to move out. In a related story, Pete Best sold one of his kidneys for $35. Wow. I died from that joke, but I will be resurrected on Sunday. You know, or Good Friday Easter joke. Oh, see, you think I feel I'm Christ. I wouldn't want to be Christ. There's no dental! A man who showed up for jury duty in Tulsa, Oklahoma was then immediately arrested and put in jail for a murder charge. The man said he wasn't upset because it's easier to get out of a murder charge than it is to get out of jury duty. And you know something? Sadly, my friends, that is the truth. That's how upside-down lawyers have made it all. You know, there's an old joke that goes, what do you call 100 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? And the answer is a good start. Well, no, it isn't a good start, because you put 100 lawyers on the bottom of the ocean, and pretty soon every single fish and crustacean will be talked into a class action suit naming Mrs. Paul, Arthur Treacher, and the fucking Gorton's fisherman guy as defendants. Now, I don't want to get off on a rant here, but our country's once venerable justice system has been taken over by a pack of grotesquely rapacious truth pimps who, in the interest of lining their own custom-tailored Armani pockets, are more tort-happy than Pavarotti turned loose in an Entenmann's factory. Okay. I'll grant you there are still lawyers out there who are motivated by compassion and concern, lawyers like our guest tonight, Consular Bugliosi, but they're about as easy to find as a dry spot on Billy Idol's futon. Now, I'm talking... Okay, he doesn't fuck like every 3 seconds. All right. Okay. All right. I'm talking about the lawyers who are paid huge fees to represent the most despicable people in the world, like drug dealers, O.J. Simpson, child molesters, rapists, O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson. We've all heard about the burglar who trips and falls while leaving the scene of the crime and then sues the guy whose house he broke into, or the woman who spills hot coffee on herself and sues the restaurant for serving it to her, or the moron college student who falls out of the window while mooning some of his friends, and then he sues the school. The reason that virtually any product in this country is 10 times more expensive than it should be is because for every marble brain that either eats a silicone packet or decides to make toast in the bathtub, it becomes Sadie Hawkins Day for squadrons of ambulance-chasing legalistas peeling off from the main formation to bomb the shit out of our economy with no regard for the collateral damage that they may wreak. It wasn't always this way. The word lawyer used to conjure up images of an upstanding, tireless advocate for the little guy, an Atticus Finch or Clarence Darrow who was passionately dedicated to truth and justice. Lawyers were once regarded with respect bordering on reverence. Now they're viewed with about the same amount of enthusiasm as Matt Helm at a radical feminist poetry reading. Like Pamela Anderson Lee, the legal profession started out with good intentions. Just somewhere along the line, it got really scary. Why the change? Why the change? When did the field of law attain the status of a pork chop at the Wailing Wall? Well, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth is that the law has been bastardized by a band of hucksters who have made it so cryptic, so utterly puzzling and arcane that even Moses, Hammurabi, and Judge Judy, working around the clock for 20 years, could not understand it. Modern American lawyers employ English not spoken since the days of King George III and Latin that even Gloria Stefan couldn't grasp, all right? Purposely making it impossible for even the wisest layman to interpret the true meaning of the law. We have gone from thou shalt not kill to thou shalt not deprive any or all persons of their inalienable right to absorb or dispense hereforth with any or all oxygen delivery and removal systems contained within or near said living configuration. It is often said that while our legal system is a flawed one, it's still the best in the world. Well, you know something? I think we're being a bit too easy on ourselves there. I happen to think that the American legal system sucks worse than a Celine Dion cover version of Whole Lotta Love. You know it, and I know it. Americans walking into a courtroom have long abandoned any expectation of justice because the American legal system has been turned into nothing more than a Baroque, multi-tiered Vulcan chess game where the rules have become too intricate for the average citizen to play and where the loser is no longer the guilty party, but rather the least clever of the two. Lack of wit should not be a crime, unless, of course, you're Andy Rooney. You ever notice I'm dead? Why is that? Most lawyers care about justice and what is right as much as MTV viewers care about Jenny McCarthy's Weltanschauung. No, I think you misinterpreted that. Weltanschauung is a German word for her world view. Her tits are hooterschnappels. People ask, how can a lawyer deem himself or herself to be simultaneously an ethical person and a defender of pure evil? How can anyone stand before a jury knowing full well in his heart that the person they are defending is guilty? Well, the answer is very simple. Lawyers who defend scum are, in their minds, defending something more important than the person sitting to their left. They are defending the law of our land, and that's what we have to change. We have to change the idea that the lawyer can use the Bill of Rights as a pillow every night and sleep soundly because he feels in his heart, even though he has defended subhumans and gotten them off, he is just doing what is constitutionally dictated. We have to put the onus back on the lawyer as an individual. The lawyer must take responsibility for his actions. We make it too easy on them when we attach patriotism to handling animals like Lau and Eric Menendez. And while we're talking about injustice in this world, how come Lau always gets mentioned first? Lau and Eric, Lau and Eric, Lau and Eric. I mean, come on, it's not even alphabetical. You know what I think? I think Eric should sue Lau's ass. That is, if the other inmates can just stop cross-examining it for a few minutes. William Shakespeare once said, the first thing we do is kill all the lawyers. Of course, he said that after he lost all of his sonnets in a nasty division of property settlement when he divorced Lady Anna Nicole of Smith. Well, obviously no one's advocating that we kill all the lawyers, but it is time that we tighten the choke chain and make these attack dogs more accountable. I say we make law school 4 years. The last year spent learning how to vaguely resemble a human being. And most importantly, if you get a bad guy off through a sleazy loophole, he bunks with you, okay? Of course, that's just my opinion. I could be wrong. I want to know what you think, America. Give me a call at 1-800-522-8673. Our guest tonight's book, entitled Outrage, now in paperback, is one of the, well, let's say it's the best book about the O.J. Simpson trial, and as an L.A. district attorney, he put Charles Manson away for life. What else do you need to do? Please welcome Vincent Bugliosi. Vincent, tell me when to roll. I don't know. Huh? Now? Well, tell me. Now? Okay, good. How you doing, Ben? I didn't know when I was supposed to walk on. I can't even follow instructions. Oh, boy. Yeah. Now, I wanted to say congratulations because I think of the millions of books written about the Simpson trial. Yeah. Yours is the only one nominated for the Edgar Allan Poe Award. Am I correct?
That's for Prime Book of the Year.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I won it for Helter Skelter and Till Death, so this will be the third time if I win it.
Can you hear? Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
I don't think he has a mic on.
Oh, I got a mic right here.
Oh, there you go.
I'm proud
I think Charlie was jazzing with the mic from prison.
Yeah. So how you doing?
I'm good. Now, repeat that. They didn't hear what you said up
Well,
front.
I just said that I had won the Edgar for Helter Skelter Until Death. This will be the third time if I win it, but I'm honored that it was the only book, as you said, out of the 60 on the Simpson case that's been nominated. It's for the best true crime book of the year, yeah.
Any truth to the? Any truth to the? I guess have they offered you and Cochran $1 million to face off against each other in a televised reenactment of the trial?
Green Epstein, a local Hollywood production company, has offered the obscene amount of $1 million each to us. I mean, believe me, Dennis, I would have done it for a lot less than that. To face off against each other for 21 hours. How much they'd show on television, I don't know. Similar to what Spence and Jerry Spence, did in London in 1986, yeah, for the prosecution of Lee Harvey Oswald for the assassination of JFK. We had the real witnesses, a real judge, real jury, no script, no actors, and the jury came back with a verdict of guilty. I've accepted. Cochran yet has not accepted. He hasn't declined, but he hasn't accepted, and we'll see how competent he is. Okay?
No, I think that, listen, you can obviously hear the sense of catharsis in our crowd when we have a plain-spoken man who does hard work. You know, I don't think you ever even pitch yourself as Buckminster Fuller. I think you just pitch yourself as the most prepared guy, and you do a lot of work.
100 hours a week, yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a good bean on top of it. But I think
But no hair on top of the bean. But go ahead.
There's too much brain in there, baby. It's pushing the follicles out. But I think that people, I think you can just hear it with the crowd.
Yeah.
People, Vince, I know you're a lawyer, but you can sense it. People are just had it up to here. They feel like lawyers are bringing down their way of life to some degree. I mean, do you even defend it, or do you separate yourself from most lawyers? Or where do you stand on it?
Well, I've retreated into writing, Dennis, because I really don't want to defend people who've committed brutal murders unless there's some extenuating circumstance, in which case you tell the jury, look, my guy's guilty, but it's not first-degree murder, second-degree murder. But I don't want to defend someone charged with a serious crime unless I believe they're innocent or there's substantially mitigating circumstances. Now, let me add, by way of a very important footnote, the only lawyer around, I take whoever came to me, because the right to counsel is a very sacred right in our society. But we don't have that problem in L.A. 35,000 lawyers are stumbling over each other's feet for cases. So I do my own investigation. If it looks like the person's guilty, I refer them to someone else. And believe me, Dennis, I'm not putting myself up on any pedestal at all. It's a matter of motivation. How do you take a guy, let's say, some vicious SOB, picks up some young girls, he sexually abuses them, brutalizes them, murders them, and then throws them alongside the road? What conceivable motivation would I have to work 100 hours a week trying to figure out a way to get this guy off? And then if you do, then...
Well, how do you... and how do your brethren rationalize that? They must know. Don't you think most of them know?
Of course they know. Of course they know. Well, take the Simpson case. I've said that whoever says that Simpson is innocent is either being disingenuous, which is a euphemistic way of saying that they're lying, or they're suffering from a very severe intellectual hernia, or they're just not aware of the evidence. Now, Cochran and these people, they know, obviously, that Simpson is guilty. I don't have any problem with their defending him, even though they know he was guilty. That doesn't bother me at all.
Really?
Well, no, wait a minute. Everyone's entitled to be represented by a lawyer, whether they're guilty or not. I do criticize them for the way that they did it, okay? It's all right, even though you know your client's guilty, to try to poke holes in the prosecution's case, raise a reasonable doubt, but you don't do things like this. You don't, for instance, in opening statement, like Cochran did, refer to 14 witnesses whose identity and statements haven't been furnished to the prosecution as required by the reciprocal discovery law of the state of California. You don't fraudulently inject race into the case knowing that this is not a racial case. You don't falsely accuse innocent police officers of conspiring to frame your client. You don't object 71 times during the prosecutor's final summation in a concerted, unprofessional, and unethical effort to interrupt the flow of the prosecutor's arguments and then deprive them of a fair trial. You don't do stuff like that. They went beyond the permissible bounds of advocacy. But trying to raise a reasonable doubt, I have no trouble with that. It's the way that they did it.
So how do we rein him in? Is it even possible now, or is the bull out of the barn?
No, because if you were to say they're being unethical and you know that this guy is guilty and you're trying to get a guilty guy off by raising these bogus, fraudulent issues, how are you going to prove it? You open up the top of their head and peek and say, so you did? No. They're going to say, no, I think he's innocent. Cochran to this day is telling people what we really have to do is go out and find the true killer. Cochran has hurt the black community tremendously. They haven't gotten the word yet, you know. And I'm not a racist. I'm not anti-black at all. But I'm telling you, there's more anti-black feeling in this country since the not guilty verdict in this case than I've ever seen before, even from people, Dennis, who I know are not anti-black, And what he did, there's no racial issue here, only a manufactured one. This is simply a case of a man who happened to be black, murdering his former wife, male companion, nothing more, nothing less. And Cochran and his colleagues, here's what they did. They blatantly and cynically exploited the black community to their long-term detriment just to help their client, who's black in color only. I mean, this guy turned his back on the black community years ago. He needed a roadmap to get back to the hood. He's never been associated with black causes, marries a white woman, lives in the white part of town, moves exclusively in the white social and corporate world, and here the black people are supporting him like he's some type of civil rights leader. But the black community thinks that Johnny Cochran's a hero. He's not. He's hurt them tremendously, and I want to go one-on-one with him for 21 hours.
Well, I'll be there for all 21. Vincent Bugliosi, ladies and gentlemen. The book is outraged. I'm going to do the news. I'll be right back. Hang in there. Vincent's like the best guest in the world. You say hi, and then you're doing the news. I'm over there just... Okay, this is easy tonight. All right, let's go. After President Clinton hurt his knee, the first thing the White House staff did was erase all the R's and L's from the bottom of his shoes. This week, Clinton learned the first rule of international diplomacy: never, never try to go shot for shot with Yeltsin. Who can burn a file up with her smile? Who can take a bogus loan and suddenly make it a great big pow? Well, it's you, girl, and you should know it. With each chance and every little sidestep you show it. Cash is all around, why don't you take it? Hey. And while visiting Africa this week, as usual, Hillary Clinton tries turning a deaf ear to whitewater. While in Tokyo, Al Gore fed some koi fish and then asked them to donate the change in the bottom of their pond to the Democratic National Committee. His travel funds depleted by his ethics violation fine, House Speaker Newt Gingrich answers questions during a Greyhound piss break. I don't know, but I've been told the white-haired guy's a big asshole. While I am sad to leave my position as Attorney General, the National Basketball Association is a tremendous opportunity for me. A faltering movie career and family difficulties have taken their toll on Macaulay Culkin. So tell me, George, couldn't Princess Leia have been killed by a giant space monster or robots? I would have loved to see a princess, any princess, torn apart by robots. Ernesto was a good soldier, but he knew he could be a great soldier, a better soldier, if he didn't masturbate 45 times a day. You know, it's almost summer when you see a kid in a tank top. Here's the reaction you get when a guy who loves cheese fries and is not expecting cheese fries, but he gets cheese fries. Here, a French auto worker takes a break from the fetid odor of his coworkers and sucks some fresh air out of a truck tire. Once again, L.A. has earned its reputation as a tough and dangerous city as these forensics experts rope off the scene where an Oscar was shot and killed this week. Also at this year's Oscars, Mickey Rooney received the Special Lifetime Achievement Award. That's it. No more beer at the family picnics. Here we see Dr. Philip Nitschke, who is known as the Australian equivalent of Dr. Kevorkian, except when you decide to flush your life down the toilet in Australia, it goes counterclockwise. Here's a shot of Nelson Mandela thinking about killing his publicist. Here, Harrison Ford is seen making a cameo on Ellen's Coming Out episode. Stan couldn't really be considered a pure bird watcher since he really only liked to watch them when they fucked. Guests of Dennis Miller Live travel with the A1 limousine service. Stung by reports of hazing, the Marine Corps has developed a new training program stressing values and morality, but until it's implemented, these two have fun shoving a board up a new recruit's ass. While frantically shouting out buy and sell orders on the New York Stock Exchange floor, everyone pretends not to hear Bill accidentally scream, "I'm a filthy little housewife!" You got your fried bison, boiled bison, baked bison, bison stew, bison fricassee, bison jerky. As Marty checks on his chicken pot pie, he curses his architect's decision to place the microwave where he did. Apropos for such a half-baked joke. And Texaco's board of directors had their annual meeting on Wednesday. Nurse duty head, get me plastic scissors and some Play-Doh. Snap! And finally, this next one's called Fuck the IRS. Guess what, folks? That's the news, and I am out of here. Good night.